Hello, today we have an interview with Alex Shelest. He is a vocal coach from Ukraine, also he worked in USA. He is a very strong coach, probably one of the strongest that I know. In Ukraine he worked with singers from the voice show Eurovision, X Factor. A few years ago his student won X Factor. He also worked with Katya IOWA. I worked with him as a student, and the most high notes that I took on his lessons. We decided to do a vocal interview for singers, for vocal teachers, so on. Alex makes his videos in English, so this interview will be in English too, with translations.
So, first question, as you work with so cool students and singers from The Voice, singers from X Factor, and I'm really interested from your experience, from your teaching experience and from your perspective, what singer needs to go to the top high level? It's to make a real career on singing, to make money. Is it a super talent or special consequences, maybe luck? What do you see from your point of view when you're working with these top singers, top students, and or maybe they working really hard, and what make the difference? Just singer or pro singer in your perception?
Got it. You know what? All of my students, they are so different, like comparing to each other, and it's not about to be great as a singer, as a vocalist. It's all about to be cool as an artist. And to be a really great artist, you need to have great, like a person idea. You need to be a person. Then also you need to have a good technique, because a lot of the times you can have a cool tone and you can sing, for example, once a week. You have a gig or a show once a week, and it's okay. But then if you are into, like into professional singing, into like make money and make this for a living, here comes the trouble, because like the tours, and it's like you have almost 24/7 to sing. And if you don't have proper technique, for example, if you have a gig once a week, it's okay. Like you are singing, then you are recovering for 2 or 3 or even 4 days. Then you are going to the studio, tracking vocals there, and here and there, it's okay. But if you are on the road and you don't have a cool technique, you just can't perform, and that's the bad thing. And at the same time, you have a bad environment, like you have lack of sleep, you have lack of good healthy food, and at the same time you are like over singing from time to time, and it's like one gig, second, third, and you're done. You just can't sing at all. It's not like I can sing like better or like heavier or just not so cool. You just can't sing at all. You're getting hoarse, the vocal folds are swollen, you're just like done. And that's the idea when students come like for rehab or to work on technique and stuff like that. So technique is also important, especially if you are into singing, like to make money and do it for a living. The songs also are important, and you can be a cool professional singer without the songs, and it's like the common stuff. Like we have a lot of singers who are singing so cool, even sometimes better than the original artists. They're singing their material songs, and it's like, like a tribute band or the like shows like The Voice or stuff like that. But if you need to work with your audience, you need to have a great songs. And the great way is when the singer is also like the songwriter at the same time, and it's more connected to his nature, to his tone, to his mindset, like idea life. and the audience is into his like material, and the belief is also important. So I guess those three components are essential, I think.
Great, great. So I know that in your approach you teach kind of mixed voice as well as belt voice, and it's really interesting for me, and I think it's interesting for other singing teachers. How do you combine it in the one approach? I hear in your videos that you combine it, and you're in good shape, and I see no trouble. So it's really interesting how do you combine it in the one approach, and maybe you can share with us some advices uh, how to look at these two settings, not as antagonist maybe.
Gotcha.
That word.
Yeah. You know what? It's important because being a vocal coach is all about to teach students what they need. And a lot of the times, it's like a classical like point of view when, for example, I'm a student and I want to sing like, for example, Chester Bennington or Chris Cornell with gritty sound and this grunge raw, in the voice, and then you are into classical point of view and like there is no belt and you need to sing only like this. That's the direction and it's only proper sound. And being a vocal coach, you need to teach all of modes, especially we are living now and turning on the radio, and you will listen different tones. Some of them are more shouty and more into belt quality. Some of them are more, like I said before, more into mixing and blending. It's it's all about the combination and the settings. Let's say it's like a pattern and settings. So, for example, you have different settings in your vocal tract. You can manipulate, for example, larynx setup, then all of the articulators, the tongue placement, the lips, mimic position, horizontal or vertical, the soft palate. Also, I have like false chord engagement and arytenoids engagement, and also even if we are talking about the true chords, there are different types of compression because the muscle fibers are different in the musculature. We have CT, TA, so we can compress more muscle fibers or less muscle fibers, and depending on the resonance. So we can use thicker or thinner mass. And it's all about, like, it's really difficult to sing in different modes if you are like only like trying to feel, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, you don't know why. Like today I've been like recording the vocals at the studio and it was okay, and tomorrow I'll do the same but there's nothing, and why? And like when you're trying to be more into physiological thing and anatomical thing and acoustical also, it's all about the resonance. So from the one hand we have like some of the manipulations in our body, from the other hand we have resonance, so the sound should be placed somewhere to be there, trying to understand how the body is working, that's the essential point. Because when you are into diagnostic idea of yourself, you can understand like, okay, if I need to belt, I need to use more open front valve, raised larynx, the mechanism should be call and shout, the volume should be really high, and that's the setup. You can't be quiet when you are belting, and you can lower your larynx because you are about to ruin your voice, and getting hurt as a result. At the same time, if you are more into mixing, I'm not a big fan of mixed voice, mixed register, and stuff like that. But at the same time, that's the great concept. I don't like people treating this stuff like they're trying to find something weird and like a ghost. They are trying to find some really that's the path and that's the path, and rather than to connect the voice, they're trying to switch into something weird place that doesn't exist at all. But the idea is good. Is good for sure. And
idea is transition.
Exactly, yeah. And in my method, because a lot of the times different vocal coaches, it's all about naming, the identification of different setups. For example, that's the common stuff: the head voice and falsetto. And you can treat falsetto as a hooty sound. Some of the coaches are into falsetto. That's everything about the second passaggio. Yeah.
And with air, some.
Yeah, with air, and some of them treating compressed head voice as a falsetto. They're treating that's falsetto, that's the full voice, that's it. You have only two different sounds.
Yeah.
Some of
it's
them.
Really a mess.
Yeah.
It can be really mess.
And that's the bad thing, because if you are into YouTube and you are trying to understand the concept behind the voice science, and you are watching one vocal coach and then another and different setups, they are calling differently, and you're like, come on, I thought that was the head voice, now it feels like that's falsetto and that's the mixed voice, but 2 days ago I thought that was the full voice, and it's crazy. But at the same time, yeah. Yeah, and at the
medium mode in your approach.
Yeah, and about the mixing and blending, it's all about to blend in the registration and the resonance.
Yeah.
So
to let chords stretch without extra effort.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, we can talk the mixed voice. Basically, that's the connected voice. If you are bridging each bridge, that's the pure mixed voice. But you can be stronger, you can be lighter, and that is all about. As for me, in my method, I have, as I said before, in the medium mode, and it's more musculature thing, because the TA muscle is activated, and it should be developed, because that's the strength, and without the strength you can't sing so powerful at the top, especially near the second passaggio, which is for average man A4, B flat 4, B4, and even high C, C5. And also I have a light mode. It's also a connected mode, but it's more with lighter coordination and less math, and less TA muscle activity. And that's why I have two different naming for transitioning and bridging, because in my method, bridging is when you have, for example, one mode, and in this mode you are bridging each bridge. And transitioning, it's when you are transitioning from one mode to another. For example, you are starting in the light, and when you are bridging, for example, the first bridge or the second, you're transitioning and changing the compression, the valve, the setup. So these are two different ideas: bridging and transition. So first of all,
changing the dynamic, changing the settings of your
vocal
voice,
tract,
sound,
of compression, of articulator's position, larynx setup, mimic position, support, volume.
Go in one direction and not change at all, just to change the pitch.
Yeah, and you have one setup, and that's the point. To I always trying to work with the students like this. First of all, we need to connect the voice. That's the basic line underneath all the approach. And we are taking, first of all, light and soft mode. Soft mode, that's the breathy tone. It's uncompressed, and it's easier because you are not into squeezing. And that's the only way. Because if you are into squeezing, you will squeeze, and near the first bridge, you just like over squeezed and you just can't go higher at all. So the release, that's the main point. When you're feeling like the resonance is shifting, that is all about, like, we have like 3 gears. The first gear, that's the oral quality, and that's the chest voice. It's all about the oral projection right here. And then as you go higher, the resonance is shifting more towards head. No matter how compressed you are, how thick folds are you using in compressing, or thin folds you're using in compressing, doesn't matter. We are talking about the resonance. And it's like basic stuff. Everybody knows, like, I have this super chesty quality, and you have like super heady. And the break, it's like always there, like it's always like this. And when you're trying, like to lift the weight and you're over compressing, like like you are pushing too hard, squeezing, and then you just can't go with this mass, and you're like you're just flipping into the head. Another thing, if you're blowing too much air, and that's forcing, and that's a really bad thing also. If you're overblowing, the vocal folds are thicker, and you just can't compress them at all. That's another bad thing. So we are trying to feel this really breathy but still slightly compressed tone, and feel how the resonance is shifting more towards head through the pharyngeal area. That's the important thing. That's the second gear. So the first gear, that's the oral quality and chest voice. Third gear, that's the head voice, and you're feeling like whoo in the head. And right in the middle, that's that is all about mid voice, mixed voice, the middle area. If you have this middle part, and you don't need to be super compressed at the same time. So that's the idea, and that's when we are learning how to quack, to manipulate with the epiglottis to anchor the position. So the first step, that's the like breathy, soft mode. And then we are like trying to build more and more strength and stamina and compression. That's the light mode. And only then we are trying to compress more with the TA muscle and feel this, I call this the click. When you are like holding the folds physically, you are feeling some activity right there. It's not about only like airflow. So from the one hand you have airflow, from another hand you have compression. And that's the compromise. More flow or more compression. That is all about. So yeah, mixed voice, it's okay. And in my method, it's like light mode and medium mode. And like after those, I have 2 belt modes. The chest belt, that's the heavy mode, when you are trying to hold the resonance as long as you can into the mouth. And that is when you are raising the larynx slightly to maintain this front open valve. And the thing, when you are belting in pure chest belt, there is no chance to sing closed vowels, such as E's and O's. There is no E and U at all. So if you are singing like, don't go away from me, it's going to be like, don't go away from me. You need to open the vowel. May, not me. And that's the difference between the modes.
And to not to be, and how should I say, and to be good with belt, as I understand you right, you need to higher larynx position, A-O vowels, and loud volume. If we control these settings, the voice is in okay situation, for vocal health and for technique at all.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not only about this, because when you are belting, you are into really physical activity, and that's the strength, that's the stamina, and you need to train the muscles to hold the folds, because we are staying in thick folds. These are the muscles that's keeping the cords together, TA muscle, and we need to stay in thick folds configuration, not to thinning out the folds. And also the support is essential. And the breathing also, breathing is like the number 1 key. Like those 3 components, proper breathing, support and placement, and also I have my wristbands also with me, like from my method, and like the placement, the support, and breathing, support, and placement. So it's a great idea because when you're singing with a microphone, you always have these, and okay, I need to breathe, I need to support, and the funny thing, when like students are saying, "Come on, man, the breathing," I'm a like living person. If I'm not into like breathing, I'll be dead, for example, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So I'm breathing and it's okay. And that's not true, because when we are breathing in our like average life, that is not about this. If we need to breathe vocally, that's another thing completely.
And you distinct support and breathing as separate things, as
For
separate lines
sure.
in your...
Yeah, that's the main reason, because a lot of the times, when I have the phone calls, and it's always like, I need a vocal session. What happened? I know I'm on the road and I just can't sing, like 3 or 4 or 5 gigs and I'm done. And the first question is, what about breathing and support? And like the first question, are you supporting? And the answer is like, yeah, I'm breathing low and deep. I'm not asking about breathing. I'm asking about, are you supporting? It's like, that's the respiratory system, but at the same time, that's different things at all. Breathing, it's when you are like taking fuel into your car, for example. And supporting, that's the manipulation with the gas pedal. So if you are supporting but you don't have a fuel, it's not going to work at all.
Great analogy, great analogy. Um, Very interesting. And so, the next question we have, I I feel that we have many singers who wants to use distorted sounds, distortion and scream, and I think usually build the sound. It's better when you work with instructor, but maybe you have some thoughts. I know you teach a lot of this greedy stuff and greedy side of voice. I know you have very long experience on it, on many singers, and also you helped me a lot with this distortion. And so maybe from your perspective, do you have some tips or advices for people who want to explore it by themselves? And what do you think it's important when you want to learn how to use distortion, and when you learn how to scream? What are some critical points maybe?
Yeah, that's really interesting idea, and the rasp, grit, distortion, and full score engagement. It's really interesting because the bad thing is when, for example, you are a new student of singing and you don't have built voice, you don't have connected voice, and you are trying to explore grit like already here and now, and that's the bad idea, because a lot of the times it's not so difficult to find this noise. The trouble comes when you are trying to vocalize with it, and especially when you're trying to bridge with it. A lot of the times, because when we are talking about grit and rasp and distortion, the first idea is that's the engagement of the false chord. And when the false chord are closed completely, that's constriction. So it's kind of controlled constriction, not uncontrolled, but controlled. And that's a really tricky part, because you need to learn how to contract with control without over squeezing when you are bridging, especially that's the common thing. The first bridge, which is E flat, E, F sharp, more or less. But then when you need to connect to the like pure third gear, pure head register, the larynx is raising immediately. When we are using grid, larynx should be slightly raised, but then it's like in one moment, like bam, in your squeeze and controlled constriction. So my advice is to, when you are trying to find the noise, the idea is to find the noise without squeezing, because the sound, um, you know, it feels and it sounds like a brutal sound, really aggressive, brutal sound. And when we are watching our favorite artists on the stage, we see this emotion, this raw, it's like so aggressive, so brutal, but at the same time it should be felt like pure release. And the idea is the same. For example, if you have R consonant, or for example r, yeah, like more
By tongue,
Italian,
yeah?
yeah. And
Ricotta.
exactly, if you will squeeze the tongue, it's gonna be like there is no sound. To feel this, you need to relax the tongue, and it creates. So the same idea with the false chord, with the arytenoid. So you shouldn't squeeze. You need to place
And engage,
tongue
maybe.
Exactly, yeah. So it's all about not it's to feel the flow, to feel the placement, and just to find the place where you are, let's say, compressing this figure, false chord or arytenoids. And my advice is to start from the average true chords fry. That's the sound we all know, like because in this point you are learning how to create the noise, not the voiced sound, and that's the difference. Like you have you have and you are learning how you can create the noise without squeezing, because if you will over squeeze, there is no sound. That's squeeze sound. Yeah, you need to have like engaged, but at the same time feel release. And then the idea is to find the same feeling but slightly higher to engage the full score. If you have then to like you are taking clean tone and then you are trying to find the like kind of the same feeling but above. For example, clean tone, you have fry, then you have that's the fry. And that's the control. You are not, trying to push, trying to yell, to shout. You're just learning how you can manipulate with different figures. That's the true chords. I can use them like this. I can use them like, because like clean tone, clean sound, that's the fast vibration of the vocal folds. Like that's abduction. That's adduction. Like fast vibration. The fry is super slow vibration.
It's speechless, yes? It's speechless.
Yeah.
And when we connect this noise with some pitch in fry, it's by the true chords or it's true with false chords?
True with false chord.
When we
So
do
you're trying to feel the pitch underneath and clean tone, and then add slightly this grittier sound and feel kind of the same feeling as a fry, but slightly higher. Because like the figures are like the true chords, then the false chord, and then arytenoids. And these are different figures. So you have, for example, like three different settings. And also you can use some cracking effect when like this. When you are kind of slightly abducting the true chords, and it's not kind of pure abduction, but it's not compressed adducted sound. It's kind of not proper, but control phonation. It's kind of super soft distortion. Not from the false chord, but with manipulation with the true chords. And these are the steps when you are building understanding and motor skills to manipulate with different figures in your vocal tract. And then you can put some retinoids like jazz growl and rattle, this but again, connected. That is all about. You need to connect the voice first, and then to connect this overlay effects, because these are the overlays effect. A clean tone, and then you're like putting. It's like a guitar pedal,
And
effect.
when we connect voice, it means that our chords not stretched, yes? And it means that we have no over squeeze our true chords and we only work above. It's kind of marker. If you can connect, then you don't block your vocal cords and you
Exactly.
don't
From the
spoil your
one hand,
voice.
yeah, from the one hand, you are not over squeezing, but at the same time, you are not letting go completely. That
Yeah.
is all about.
And you work with upper kind of false chords, retinoids, with no
Exactly.
harm for true chords, yes?
Yeah.
And yeah, cool,
Because
great,
a
great.
lot of the times it's like, ah,
Mm-hmm.
you need to like, you have, if you have then you need to have the same with like grit and distortion.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the times you are like over squeezing, like, so the same
Mm-hmm.
idea.
Yeah, great, great. So, and I remember that we worked on distortion as I feel it for myself as extension of bright nasal quality. So we take and with
Mm-hmm.
communicated with kind of these
Mass perspective.
vibrations, we find this engagement.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird, but for me, it's worked much better than when I try to make something on this level.
because you know
And
what? You're right. Because the voice, it's a really interesting thing, because we can adjust. For example, if we are adjusting the larynx setup, at the
mhm.
same time we are adjusting the vowel and the resonance. So this triangle always uh, can be manipulated with different perspectives and angles. So you can manipulate with the larynx by shaping the vowel and resonance.
Mhm.
Also, you can manipulate with the larynx setup by managing the compression setup. And at the same time, for example, if we are thinking about the resonance and we are trying to hold the resonance into the mouth,
Yeah.
the larynx will
Respond.
be, yeah, will be raising slightly, and in the vocal folds compression, you will be more into thick folds compression setup.
Towards thick. Yeah.
Exactly. At the same time, if you are covering the vowel and
Mhm.
using more deeper tone, at the same time you are slightly lowering the larynx, letting the resonance shifts more towards head, and that's when you are into tilting the larynx forward and stretch the folds and break
Mhm.
the head voice. So it's kind of, like being a vocal coach is not all about like you need to do this exercise and
Yeah.
that's it. If it's like 1 year, 2 year, and like there is nothing. No, you need to do this. You can manipulate and go from here. Okay, it's not gonna work like this. Okay, let's try more, vowel idea and
Mhm.
shaping and tuning the vocal tract. Okay, this is also not
Cool.
working. We can
Yes.
adjust the
Yes.
layering setup. Okay, maybe compression. Man, it's like, from different angles and different perspectives. It's really important.
Yeah, and it's really great that you look at the voice from different angles. And I think watching your channel and watching your videos, I really inspired this idea that you don't use right or wrong approaches. You just try to find something that will work with current people with this particular student, and it's really great.
And we all are so different.
Yeah, yeah. People learn by different way,
Exactly.
and
And and they are like thinking differently because for example, one student can think about more, idea of visualization and stuff like that. And I can talk like, okay, you need to raise the soft palate, damn the larynx slightly, put the tongue down, and it's okay, kind of this. And another, it's like completely different thing. And he will be responding more when we will work on different manipulation and mimic the sounds, like do the sound like this or like this. He's not thinking about the position, about the larynx setup, about the false chord compression, about the mimic, He
but
just
kind of cat
create,
sound or
yeah,
frog sound,
yeah.
yeah, it works better.
He just creating the sound, and it's like automatically, and you have the
Uh-huh.
pattern and the setting. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Uh, great.
So uh, I know that you know as vocal coach our American coaches as Brett Manning, as Robert Lanty, and other. And maybe you can tell us how you met them. Uh, Maybe you learned something from them. And I saw videos on your channel when you interviewed Brad and Robert. Very interesting videos. We can link below this your interview. I think it would be very interesting. And maybe you can tell about some experience with working with this or
Kind of
Yeah,
this
it's
stuff.
it's it's really funny story because like when I was starting all this thing, for me, like it was like every beginner. Okay, I'm into vocal and I need to learn something. Okay, let's see what we have here and like vocal technique and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Brad was like one of the top number
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And by
yeah.
the way, in Russian community, you also known as Brett Manning student. People, I heard it a couple of times that Alex Shelest, he learned from Brett Manning, and it's very interesting for
Never
people.
ever,
And
never ever. So okay, the true story behind this idea. So I found Brad videos, and for me it was like, whoa, it's crazy, like the whistle voice, the bridge, and stuff like that. And
mm-hmm.
and then I was learning from different techniques, like Brad, like mixed voice and stuff like that. At the
Yeah, yeah,
same
yeah.
CVT, like complete vocal technique, Catherine Settling, and Robert Lantis, Four Pillars of Singing, Jamie Vandera, and all of these are so, like essential and cool things. And then I was like trying to build my own method because all of the times it was like that's good, that's good, that's good, but that works for me, that's not. And the
Mm-hmm.
same was with my students, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something's good, something's bad for them, and it's like you're trying always to find the solution. That is all about to find the solution, solve the problem. And like for I guess 3 or even 4 years, I was building my method, and it's always was like, okay, I think like these are the modes, and like every human sound can be described like this. And then it was like, okay, this guy, come on, it's not like this at all. It's something different. Okay, I need to work again and find this type of sound to be
Mm-hmm.
my method. And like 2 years, three, four, five, and then finally all these modes, and like you can take classical singer or country singer or rock, metal, pop, R&B, gospel, soul, whatever, and you have like, okay, this type of compression, this type of larynx setup, bomb, that's the medium, that's the like, kind of
Mm-hmm.
this. But like to make long story short about Brad, and at the same time, I was like, I thought, okay, I need to meet this guy, and like, hi Brad, like I'm Alex, I'm vocal coach. Thanks for the inspiration. Like you're so cool and blah 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 blah. And he's like, well, okay, I saw your videos. That's cool. And that was like I guess 4 years ago, 2017, I guess. I've been to LA. I was teaching voice there, and I remember there was some webinar or stuff like that with Brett. And with Brett, we were like, hey, what's up? Everything is okay, cool, bye. It's like super average thing. And that was the webinar, and it was so early in the morning, like 6 or so, and I thought like, okay, it's really interesting. So I woke up like this, and it was, it's like average thing. The webinar is all about essential oils for your voice, and it's like 1 hour of speaking about the essential oils, and then like super guest, the Brad Manning, it's like 10 minutes, and okay, you can like conversate with him. So it's like more a marketing thing, whatever. And it was like, okay, you have some questions, and like there were maybe 15 or 20 different singers and coaches and blah blah blah, and everybody like, and I was like, okay, like, hey Brad, what's up, and blah blah blah, and he said like, oh Alex, cool, good to see you again because we are friends in Facebook, man. I saw your videos and it's so cool, like, man, that's awesome. And I was like, come on, man, that's just great. Like, and from this time we were like speaking a lot, chatting in a Facebook through Facebook, and then about this interview, it was like I just texted Brad, what's up, what's new, listen, let's do some like voice talk or something like that. He was like, man, that's awesome, come on, let's do it. And it's like this. So never ever I was working with the Brad as a student at all. And with Rob and with Jamie Vandera, and also the good friend of mine, Jamie Vandera, this great coach for the Mythbusters here, taking just glass and like taking the pitch and bah. So yeah, and those guys, Brad and Jamie, they were like always supporting me, like, man, that's the great stuff, you need to promote it on, you can do it, and that's the thing. And I'm super like appreciate this.
And you do you explore it all this technique by yourself?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you find cool?
I never ever had vocal lesson at all in my life.
Great. I know you're a drummer, and
Yeah.
is drumming helping you with the voice, or it's completely different?
Yeah, and I'm not just the drummer. Like the first instrument I was playing that was the violin, and like I'm from family of musicians. My mother, she's a piano teacher, and my father is a winder. He's playing in like orchestra, and at the same time playing in a jazz rock fusion band. And like since my childhood is all the way up and all the way down, like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Kiss, or Chicago.
They teach you from the early beginning.
and also he's a great singer. He's singing like super high without any constriction. And I was listening to this, and it's like I'm listening and I'm trying to copy this. And so the violin, then I was learning guitar, and then I was learning drums since I was 15 years old. And like I was playing everything, I guess, from death metal to like our pop sound. And at the same time I was playing drums, and there was a band called Free Breathe, and that was fusion jazz rock band. and I was like behind the drum kit and singing at the same time, playing on time signatures, like with different shiftings, metric shiftings, and singing with it. It's like great experience about relaxation, to be in the song and to support and to work hard with the body. So yeah, it's a
Cool.
great experience for sure.
Cool. Uh,
Maybe you have some, maybe you have some tips or advices for singers who sing in different sound settings. And sometimes I think it's kind of often question if all acoustics, all bar, club sound is good, that singers sing well. But if some not, maybe singer can hear themselves in the proper way, and the singing not so stable. From your teaching perspective, maybe you have some thoughts what singers can do to make their performances more stable.
Yeah. Um, from the one hand, we have ears and we are like listening. And
yeah, yeah.
sometimes when we are listening, it's not the same as what we are producing at the same time, especially if the environment is bad, clubs and different, like theaters. But at the same time, from the other hand, we have feelings like vibrations, and it when you are learning to sing and to not to sing, to vocalize, when you are learning how to ascend the pitch and descend the pitch, it feels like you know where is the place in your body for every specific pitch. So sometimes you can sing without hearing yourself, but knowing the feelings within your body, and you know how to produce the pitch with idea of sympathetic vibrations and feelings and the resonance thing and buzz and blah blah blah, stuff like that. So really important to learn and to vocalize, to practice. And because for every single pitch you have the setup, you have this type of compression, this placement, this support, this volume, this mechanism, more cry, less cry, and when you're singing, you are manipulating not only by hearing, but by like manipulating the
Physical feelings.
yeah, in your vocal track. So that's the idea, to learn and to vocalize, to do the scales, slides, sirens, whatever. And also you need to learn how to adjust the monitor mix. If you're singing with in-ear monitoring or just average monitors, you need to learn how to, like combine what you have in your mix with just acoustic feel. So sometimes you can just, putting off the headphones and to listen what's going on the stage. So, and it's from the one hand, it's cool, but at the same time, when you are singing only with one earphone, that's bad. And I had an interview recently with a great ENT specialist here based in Kiev, and she said like we have like different issues, and one of them is when the chords are not responding the same. So the one chord is vibrating like this, and another one like slower.
Yeah.
And my question was, what causes this issue?
Unsymmetrical.
And she said a lot of the times when you're singing, when you're performing on the stage with in-ear monitors, and you're just putting off one earphone, and because that's ENT, like ear, nose, throat, and its responses like one figure, and by like keeping only one earphone, that's bad. And
That's bad.
sometimes, yeah, that causes the, like strain and this issue with different vibration of the vocal folds. So you need to learn how to not to do harm to your voice, but at the same time learn how to it's all about experience. The more you are performing, the more you are into, different situations, and you know how to solve them. And another thing, if you are like a great singer and you are learning technique, you can sing well, and when you are on the stage at the first or second or a third time, and something's wrong, and it's like that's the music. It's always something's wrong. The theater, the backline, the mic. I know, that's the average thing. And you are learning. It's another type of learning. From the one hand, you're learning how to sing. From other hand, you're
You
learning how to
learn how
perform.
to
And
perform.
that's like different things. To sing and to perform at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are both in a one person. Sometimes not. Sometimes we have cool person who can perform, but he's not a cool singer. And at the same time, we have a great singer who just can't perform at all. And about the top stars, as you said before, and that's also the idea to
When it's
learn how to
combining, yeah.
exactly in a one person. And that is all about like you can sing and you can perform and you can bring this like message and emotion to the audience, and that is all about.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
advice is to learn how to sing, how to vocalize, the technique. That's the basic blocks underneath. And then that's the experience. You can't buy it for the money. You need to perform live a
Yeah.
lot of the times. And that's the idea, the only one.
Cool. If we have time for one last question, I uh, I understand that vocal situations are really different, but maybe you have your top three exercises which you think more useful or more universal, or or maybe just top three exercises your favorite in any reason, in any sense. It's interesting, and why?
Okay, it's not a super product placement, but anyway, um, this is the vocal gym trainer.
Uh-huh.
I'm a vocal gym trainer, and you said about exercises, and I will tell about only one thing. This trainer combines all you need because at the same time you have to project the flow, to
Yep.
support, to quack, to compress, to shape the vowel, and you are not thinking about this. You just vocalizing into the straw, and everything like happens automatically. And each morning starts from this. Each morning, I'm teaching 24/7 without any, like rest days, and that's really bad. And if we are talking about health, vocal health, you need to have rest days. That's essential part. And anyway, um, each day starts from this trainer. I'm just waking up, doing some, like breathing thing. It's really important to make the flows going, and then I'm just vocalizing like because the
On
idea
some
is
specific scales or songs, or it's not
uh,
important.
just average slides and sirens. I have a course called Vocal Gym based on this concept, and there are different exercises, scales, sirens, yeah. But I'm just talking about like how to warming up my voice. And the great thing, because we all have this pressure like under the folds, you know, and
Under, yeah, yeah, yeah.
the idea is to have negative pressure on the folds, and that's why we all know these
Yeah, it's
semi.
not the same that we don't have negative pressure when we use
We
lip flute.
have for sure. That's why it calls the semi-occluded phonation. It's not
Yep,
open
yep.
sound, not ah. And that's why a lot of the times when we are, for example, that's the common stuff. Are you connected? Yeah, I'm connected. Okay, let's do this with lip rolls. And you're like, and then let's do it on ah, and it sounds like ah, like this. Because with this we have this negative pressure. So we have under the folds and above the folds, and that's the impedance, like to hold the folds for a free vibration. And then it's all about the placement. That's why we are talking about the placement. We need to maintain, to keep the sound in the roof of the mouth, to place there, not in the throat. And that's the idea. So we have the same feeling as in semiclud phonation. And that's the thing. When we are blowing, the water is reflecting, the pressure. And you don't need to push too much. So it starts like, and then more edgier sound like, and you have just like, okay, like 8 a.m. in the morning, like 10 minutes, and you have the whistle voice without any pushing, without any effort. So
and you little by little you add vocal cords compression too.
Exactly, yes? Step by step. So I'm starting from super, kind of fry, first step without the fry, just the flow, like this. Remember, soft mode, super little, not edge compression, and then it's like I'm just waking up the edges of the vocal fold, the folds. And then I'm adding like and like turn it into the full voice. And that's
great.
And by the way, like a week ago or so, I had a master class in Tel Aviv, Israel, and it was like I had only one bag that was the hand luggage. I was traveling by plane, and it was like, okay, super small bag, and should I take this with me? You know what? And I took this because that's it. It's like all my each day of like vocalizing, practicing, recording, that is all about. So I've put this into my bag and
cool.
Yeah. So my advice is to top 3. Okay, let it be the fry for sure, like the flow control, something with F or S or H, like
to keep air pressure, yes.
At the same time, not to over squeeze.
No.
And that's all about release, flow, the ear, apogee, and stuff like that. Not to squeeze. That is all about not to hold back the sound, like the flow is going, the folds are like this, and I step to compress the folds. And the sirens are the best. These are the best because at the same time when you're practicing the sirens, you are practicing connect while shaping application as you go, like as you are ascending the scale. You are taking the mode and you are just doing the sirens, like 3-tone sirens, 5-tone sirens, octave sirens, and like 2-octave sirens. These are the best.